So today's adventure saw me heading north, way north, and up to the two most northerly mountains in the UK. And to get there, I was travelling along one of the most scenic routes there are in the whole of Europe, the North Coast 500. And I left Perth and headed north, stopping briefly at Inverness before heading on to the North Coast 500 and up via Ullapool and round further north through some amazing scenery to the start point and where I was going to spend the night before tackling these hills in the far north. But it really was a joy driving along here. Not just the mountains, but the coastline in the northwest highlands of Scotland is just some of the best scenery that anybody can imagine. It really is lovely. Anyway, after quite a trip, I'd reached my starting point and parked the van up and got set about getting comfortable for the night before the hike the next day. Well, I'll tell you what, I am glad to be here. It's been a bit of an adventure. An adventure in itself getting up here. I think it's about, from home for me, I came round via Ullapool, so it was about 230 miles, something like that, 230, round about that mark anyway. And the last bit's single track road, and it's just the bit at the end it's always seems to be the very last bit that's a single track, and you have to really concentrate. So it's I've been driving for probably about 5 hours because I did stop. I stopped off at Inverness for a coffee and a few bites to eat, and I'm really far north. I couldn't get any further north if I tried for hill walking for sure, and the hills that I'm going to be going up tomorrow are some of the most northerly hills or areas of high ground in Scotland and the UK for that matter. So I'm really looking forward to it, but I tell you what, it is blowing a hoolie. I think I may have to put this roof down in the van because it's side on and the van's getting buffeted about. But anyway, I'm going to get myself sorted now, maybe get some tea. It's nearly 7 o'clock at night, and hoping that the weather kind of improves. I've got a great view. I can see over to the hills that I'm doing tomorrow. I can see up the road. It's lovely actually, it's really nice. I'm really quite excited about this adventure. So yeah, take me sharp and get some scran on. Let's do that. Having set up for the night, it was time to get some food. And I wasn't too hungry as I'd had a bite to eat in Inverness on the way up. But I poured myself, it wasn't a pot noodle, it was something else. I don't know if I could recommend it or not, but it was something. And for dessert there was some Pringles, which is another healthy meal. But I had my tea and then I just chilled for the night. The wind was fairly rocking the van about, and I sat, read some, listened to some rain showers coming in, and just the wind whistling round. There wasn't much else to do really. Well, that's about 11:15 now, and I'm glad I put the roof down earlier on, which was a bit of a struggle. I don't know if I've put that bit up, or you might have seen me trying to get the roof down already, but it was that windy. It took quite a few attempts for me to finally get it down, but the wind's still howling round the van. It's forecast to veer from a southwesterly to round to a northwesterly, hopefully by the morning, so there'll be a bit more shelter. It's just, at the moment it's just funneling, God, I can't speak, it's late, I'm tired, funneling up the glen, and it's also forecast to drop a little bit, and that'll be good if it does. We'll see what the morning brings. Hopefully it'll be slightly nicer. There's been a few hefty showers kicking about, and the cloud level's probably sitting about 500 metres, so we'll see. It'd be nice if the cloud cleared, but for the time being, it's time for bed. So night night folks, and I'll see you in the morning. Let's keep our fingers crossed the weather improves and we get a nice hike. Right, time for lights out. Right, morning folks. What time are we at? We are at 8:15 and I've been up for about an hour and a wee look outside and it looks okay actually. It's the wind's dropped right down, so you might have seen first thing I did was I popped the roof up to give me some standing room. I wasn't going to do that if it was as windy as it was, but the clouds are still moving across the sky quite quickly, so I think what's happened is the wind direction's changed and now it's not funneling down the glen, it's coming in from the northwest, which is giving me a bit of shelter here, which is fine, but it also means the midges out, and this is the grand thing about having a van, is I can get ready inside the van without having to swat the blooming midges away, and I'll get ready in here and just get cracked on. I've had my breakfast, porridge, followed by a Scotch egg and washed down with some coffee. So that's lovely. So I'm going to shut up, I'm going to get my gear on and we're going to get hiking up these very, very northerly mountains in Scotland. I'm really looking forward to it. Right, let's do this. So I set off on my hike up these mountains, and before long I had to stop and get something out of the bag because the local wildlife was coming to meet me. If it stops, I don't know if you can make it out on the camera, but the midge are out in force. So I am going to, and you can see them all, my god, I've just sprayed some DEET on, and I've put my buff on which is covered in permethrin, but I just need to start moving. I'm getting eaten alive here. This is just horrific. There's millions of them. I don't know if you can make it out. I don't know if you'll see it in the camera. But yeah, I'm literally being swarmed by the little buggers. Oh, very nice. Right, let's go. Oh, Jesus. Oh, tell you what, I haven't done many pieces to camera because I was keen to gain altitude as quick as I could, because down there, as you probably saw, there was no wind, and when there's no wind, that means the beasties can get you, and I tell you, they were ferocious down there. So I've come up a wee bit. I must be about, I'm not sure, 100, 150 metres up, and there's a wee breeze here so I can stop and not get eaten by the midge, because that was pretty bad down there. But yeah, it's going to be windy. I know up here it's going to be windy because I can see the clouds are moving quickly across the mountain. The tops aren't clear, but that might change by the time I get up there, but still, it's beautiful here, absolutely gorgeous. And even if I don't get any views from the tops of the mountains today, the drive up last night is through some of the most stunning areas of Scotland. You know, mountains, but as well as the coastline, just wee windy roads and lovely bays with little houses and wee villages scattered here and there. It's no wonder this is one of the most popular touring areas. This is actually on the North Coast 500, one of the most popular touring areas in Scotland. But anyway, enough about that. I am going to be heading up here now. So came up, there was a farm track up to the farm and then through a field, but after that it looks pretty pathless, as is the case with a lot of these mountains, but I'll touch on that a bit later. And because it's going to be pretty pathless, I don't know if you've noticed, I've got my gaiters on today, and again I'll tell you why a little later on. But yeah, for now, enough talking, let's get walking. As I mentioned, it was pretty pathless, and I headed up into the corrie, and it was very grassy. In fact, the grass was really quite long, which I kind of expected at this time of the year, but it was wet as well. And I trudged my way up past the corrie, and beyond this, the real steepening up the headwall started. So just before getting there, I stopped, had a wee bite to eat, and I did a wee bit to camera. All right. There's a lot of grass here and it's all wet, and you might have just seen me putting on my over trousers, and the reason for that is, although it's not raining at the moment, well, there has been a few showers coming through but nothing substantial, but the grass is just soaking wet, and at this time of year it's long grass, so it was actually above the level of my gaiters, and my trousers were getting rather wet. So I thought I'd put my over trousers on, and they've worked. It's worked. It's keeping my my legs from getting soaking from just the residual rain or water on the grass. As expected, there's not many paths, hence why I'm having to walk through the grass. But yeah, it's pretty atmospheric. You've probably just seen behind me, it's just cleared, but the clouds coming and going. I'm in this corrie now, and I was going to go round and make it a horseshoe, but there was two reasons why I didn't do that. One is the main reason is I'd be gaining height quicker, which I usually like. But because of where the cloud level is, which is just above me at the moment, I would have been going into the cloud quicker. Whereas if I come into the corrie, as you can see, I'm just below the cloud at the moment, so I'm getting more views for longer before I head up to the Bealach and then up. And the second reason is going higher, quicker. It looks like it is quite breezy up there. Would have meant I would be in the wind in the clag for longer. I think in the corrie here it's a wee bit more sheltered. There's enough of a breeze to keep the midges at bay, but that's the reasoning behind it. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to get cracked on. It looks quite steep behind me, up to the head wall, but I've checked the map, and yeah, there seems to be a way through picking through the crags up into the Bealach. So let's go and see if I can find that. Right, let's go. Before long, the slopes started to steepen quite considerably, and a wee technique I sometimes use on steep ground is not to head straight up, but to zigzag up the slope. It just makes the total distance travelled a bit further, but it does help because it makes the ground less steep and gives your legs a wee bit of a rest from the upward pull on these steep slopes. Oh, I tell you what, dead atmospheric now. And just as I predicted, it's a bit windy. I had to take my baseball cap off because it was in risk of getting blown away. Put my beanie on, so it's not warm. It's a bit windy, so I'm glad I've got my hard shell on. And every now and again there's wee breaks, but I'm not feeling too optimistic. Anyway, behind me is the first mountain, Carnstachy, which is probably the second most northerly mountain, but I'm doing two mountains today, and the second one's further north. But I'm going to head up here first and then retrace my steps back down here. But yeah, I don't know, we might get lucky. It's starting to clear a bit behind me now, but yeah, who cares? Let's just get cracked on up to the top and keep our fingers crossed that the cloud clears at some point to give us some views. Right, let's get going into the mist. Whoa. So higher and higher into the mist I went, and in the upper reaches of this mountain it just becomes very, very rocky with lots of these quartzite boulders, which in conditions like this today were very, very slippy, so it slowed me down quite considerably. And I was certainly glad when I saw the summit cairn, because it had taken me much longer than I'd thought to pick my way across this boulder field to the summit of Carnstachy. Ooh. Well, it's not warm. There's a fair bit of wind chill today up here. And this is the summit cairn of Carnstachy. It sits at just a smidgen over 800 metres. And it's it's a shame there's no views. The meaning of this hill is rugged hill. And I can understand why, because for the last, I don't know, the top 100 metres of the hill, it's just, I don't know if you can see it round about me, it's just rock, broken rock. Very little vegetation. There's a few bits of lichen and moss. I'm not sure, there's maybe some sort of chemical in the rock that reduces the possibility of I don't know, vegetation growing on it. I don't know, pop the comments down below and tell me why there's no vegetation covering the top of Crann Stacky. Anyway, yeah, the cloud's still in, no views. Usually you get views up of a more famous Corbett. This is a Corbett, so a mountain under the 3,000 foot mark, but above the 2,500 foot mark in Scotland. Just to the south of here there's a mountain called Finehaven, and I've done that, I've wild camped in that. I'll put a link in the description below, many moons ago, and again I had similar conditions to this, and as soon as I came off the hill it cleared. So no doubt that's what will happen today. This happens quite a lot. I'm sure some of you will have experienced the phenomenon of cloud deciding to clear the summits as soon as you start to descend off the hill. But who knows. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now, get a bite to eat here and then head and see if we can make it to the second mountain of the day, and the most northerly one as well. Right, let's get some more food down here. After having some lunch, I teetered my way back across the boulder field, and I must say you have to be careful coming off the top here because there's some steep ground if you get it wrong. Anyway, I was glad to get off that boulder field and onto some more normal, soft, grassy, mossy ground, and I was soon heading up the second and most northerly peak of the day, Ben Spianay. And had I thought that my boulder hopping fun was over, I was soon disappointed, because the top of the second mountain had almost identical boulder fields as the top of the first one, and much care needed to be taken. This is not a place to break an ankle or fall over, that's for sure. Whew, well, here we are. This is apparently the summit of the second mountain of the day, Ben Spianay, and it's 773 metres and is probably the most northerly mountain, depending on how you define a mountain, on the UK mainland. And I say the mainland because there are some, I don't know if they'd be classed as mountains or hills, but certainly on Shetland, the highest point on Shetland, I think it's Ronas Hill. Might be wrong there, I can't remember. I'll put a description of the video that I did when I went over that hill. I can't remember how high that is, but it won't be as high as this. I don't think it's above 700 metres. So yeah, usually you get, or so I believe, you get sweeping views to the north, to the coastline. You can see Orkney, you can see down to Cape Wrath, Durness, places like that, but not today. The clag hasn't lifted, so yeah, you win some, you lose some. I'll just have to come back. And I don't know if I mentioned that I've not been on these Corbetts before. These are the remaining two in this part, I suppose north of Fort William, that I've got remaining on the mainland. So if I don't know if I have mentioned it before, but if you're into bagging, and sometimes I am, today I'm bagging the Corbetts, sometimes I'm not. But if you're into bagging and you want to get around all the hills, there's no way you can leave it to good weather days to get around them all in Scotland for sure. You have to get out in days like today and in the rain if you're going to get around the hills. It's inevitable, or you'd only go out once every 2 months. So yeah, I should count my lucky stars that the rain's gone off, because it was raining earlier on, and the fact that the midges haven't followed me up the hill, because they were a nightmare. So anyway, I am not going to linger here. I'm still quite full from having a bite to eat on Crann Stacky, so I'm going to head back down and then head straight down off the ridge and a direct line back down to the farm and hopefully back to the car. So let's go. So down I headed, back across yet another boulder field, and as I descended and lost some height, I soon came to the end of the boulders and onto the grass, and it was lovely. It was lovely getting some sure-footedness on this grass, even though it was steep and rather slippy. It was a lot better than those boulders, that was for sure. I don't know if you'll hear this or not. I've not got my microphone on, but I've come out of the cloud. Woohoo! It's always a nice feeling when you come out and drop out of the cloud, and I'm getting some views now. Look down there over my shoulder, back down towards Skourie. And over here the bloody sun's out where the car is. Down there, can you believe it? Sunshine down there, not up here though. So yeah, I'm dropping the way down. Let me see if I can see it. I think just about there is the farmhouse. So heading back down there and then along the track and back to the car. So I shall report back later on, but yeah, it's nice to get some views. Ooh, what a change. So after descending some very steep grassy slopes, I was really glad to get back on that farm track. And before long, I was heading back along the road and back to the van. This is a pretty pathless route apart from the start, so if you're coming up here to do it, just beware of that fact. And it does take a long time to cover the ground up here because of how rough it is. Right, as you can see, that's me back at the van now. Thankfully I've just had a large coffee and 3 bacon sandwiches, which is perfect. And you can see probably behind me, the cloud level has risen a wee bit. You can see the Bealach, but you still can't see the top, so it's still clagged in. I'll tell you what, I think that took me about 5.5, 6 hours to do with all the filming as well. And when I looked at the route in the guidebooks and it said 5 to 6 hours, I thought there's no way that's going to take that amount of time. That'll take me about 3.5, 4 hours because of the distance and the elevation. But I tell you what, it's the ground conditions, the rough terrain you have to go over, especially at the top of the hills. Those boulder fields were just a nightmare. So just bear that in mind if you thought to do these. But yeah, shame I never got any views. I'll tell you what, this road, although it's single track, it's the busiest single track road I've ever seen. It is the North Coast 500, however. Anyway, right, I'm going to shut up now. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe out there. And I'll see you in the next adventure. Right, take put this away.